2025. And I'm so glad to be with you today. And it's kind of a post Remembrance Day, also Veterans Day little thought for you today. And I want to give you a little secret in life. You just need to make people feel better whenever you can. You know why? Because we have been given a wonderful privilege, both in Canada and United States and many parts of Europe. Why? Because we have been given a freedom. Yesterday, I had the privilege of attending a Remembrance Day in the small town in which I live. We have in our town a cenotaph that is outside, and the entire service is outside. Now, what was really exciting for me was the fact of number one, how many people attended that particular Remembrance Day service and how powerful it really was. There we have local clergy, but also as well the Legion and different branches of the civil service, like RCMP and different members of the military that were there. And it was a very moving service. In fact, my wife said after the service was over, she says that's the most powerful Remembrance Day service that she has ever been. Now, myself, I was a chaplain and involved in many different Remembrance Day services. But what was so compelling for us, at least, was this, the fact of how many children had been attending that particular Remembrance Day service, and how many families felt it was important for them to be a part of that service. So here's something that I would like you to think about today. You and I have been given this wonderful freedom, these wonderful veterans who fought in World War I, fought in World War II, fought in the Korean conflict and other different wars around the world. Canada, for example, was the instigator and also as well the first nation to do something called peacekeeping. It was Lester B. Pearson, who was our prime minister at the time, who saw that there were all kinds of hot spots and all kinds of different, places in the world where wars were being fought. So he made a decision. He went to the United Nations and said to them, why don't we set up a peacekeeping force that will go into different hot spots around the world and act as a police force or as a patrolling force, as a peacekeeping force? And he said, I will back that up by sending Canadian troops. Well, Canada has been the number one supplier of peacekeeping forces throughout the world. And Lester B. Pearson actually won a Nobel Peace Prize because of his suggestion. And of course, many Canadians have lost their lives in peacekeeping roles. And those freedoms came at a price. Now, of course, Remembrance Day and also as well Veterans Day, or whatever, of course, your country looks at it, our freedom came with a price. Young men and young women gave their lives. What was so moving yesterday, of course, was the fact that we heard the names read of those in our small town who gave their lives so that we could have our freedoms. And I'm absolutely grateful for that. Now, the reason why my wife and I, of course, are deeply impacted by this is both our parents, that being our fathers, served in World War II. My wife's father was a gunner. That means that he ran one of the big guns, and he traveled into Italy, and he traveled into France, and he traveled into the Netherlands. And he was part of the liberation force of Canadian soldiers that went into, of course, Netherlands. Did you know that the Netherlands and Canada have a particular bond because of the fact of Canadians were the ones who liberated, of course, the Netherlands. And if you are Canadian and you find yourself in the Netherlands and you identify yourself as a Canadian, instantaneously they will say, thank you for our liberation. Even today, the generations of Dutch people recognize the Canadian contribution of liberating, of course, the Netherlands from Nazi occupation. My dad was a navigator. He flew literally hundreds of night bombing missions over Europe on behalf of the Allies. He was the guy who had the responsibility of getting them there and getting them back. And so my dad had a unique perspective along that lines. One of our family members was in the Army. The other one was in, of course, the Air Force. Either one, because of their responsibility and also their sacrifice, we have freedoms today. Now, what should you do with that freedom? Well, you need to be as kind as possible whenever you can. That's the secret. Each and every one of us are going through different things at some time in our lives. And sometimes it feels like, life is moving at a very great pace. You almost feel like you can't catch up. And everything other times looks like it's locked in place. And sometimes you don't feel like you're going anywhere. You feel like your wheels are spinning. It was kind of interesting. Today, for example, I'm taking my car in to have some studs on my wheel replaced. You see, what happened was when the people were putting on new tires, they broke a stud. So I have to take it in and have it replaced. Now, interesting fact was yesterday or a couple of days ago, my wife and I were going into our son's farm. He has a little incline that goes down, a little hill that we have to go down, of course, to feed the horses. Now, what was interesting was it was muddy. But because I had winter tires, I wasn't the least bit concerned. And so we went down, turned around, and went back up. And it was interesting that as I was going up, I had a certain amount of confidence in the winter tires because I had two, very brand new tires. Both of them have less than 1,000 kilometers on them. So I'm not the least bit concerned. But, sometimes you feel like you're spinning in the mud. Well, that's how it is. Well, in those times, we come across people that there might be living in the hardest moments of their lives. They may seem distant. They might be upset. They might even be difficult. But underneath, they are hurting. You may dismiss them. You say, they're nothing but a cynic. They're nothing but a mocker. They're nothing but, a crank. But the reality of the situation is underneath, they are hurting. In that moment, you have a decision to make. You have a decision to be kind. And I want to tell you something. Being kind actually doesn't cost you anything. It actually enhances their life. Your word fitly spoken can be like apples of gold in pitchers of silver. We have been given a wonderful freedom where I live in Canada. And for those who live in democracies and those who have, fought these wars, we have been given the privilege of actually and the freedom to be kind to one another. It was Paul who said this: love is patient and love is kind. So my simple exhortation, even when you come across what I call a sandpaper person, you can still be kind. And I love that golden rule. Now you say, what's the golden rule? Well, in some people's estimation, whoever has the gold rules. That's kind of a Donald Trump type of thought. But no, it is simply this: do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. That means that no matter how you treat me, I am not going to treat you the same way. I am going to treat you the way that I want to be treated. And of course, every one of us wants to be treated with kindness. So treat people with kindness. Also, as well, be willing to forgive. I've met many people who have walked around with unforgiveness in their hearts. And whenever I meet them, the first thing I say to them is, listen, get rid of this root of bitterness in your life. And often they say to me, well, you don't know what they did. That's right. I don't know what they did, but I can see the results of what is happening right now. You see, when you walk in unforgiveness, it colorizes every relationship and potential relationship that you have because you think that you're going to be hurt by them. And by natural inclination, you put up barriers. And that is really wrong. So the simple fact is, walk in forgiveness. And secondly, walk in instantaneous forgiveness. That means that when you are hurt, make a decision that you're going to forgive. Because what you are doing is you're giving yourself peace. You say, well, you don't know what they did. That's right. The reality of the situation is they still have power over you because of the fact that you have not released that hurt. Release it. Don't nurse it. Don't sit there and rehearse what they did. And certainly don't kiss it or curse them. But what I need you to do is disperse it. And when you disperse it, you will reverse the particular situation and give people grace when they need it most. You say, well, they don't need it. Yes, they do. It was Solomon who said this, a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in pitchers of silver. You and I can give some grace to people's lives. We can overlook. Now, I'm not telling you that you should enable them. I'm not saying that you should allow them to abuse you, but understand or try to understand where people actually are. I came across this particular situation. Years ago, there was a lady that I met whose name was Mary. And when I met Mary, she had been hurt by people in the church. But I reached out to her and I would meet with her every single week. And over time, the walls came down. And what was really exciting about the situation is how that Mary and I developed a wonderful relationship. And she allowed me to become her pastor. She allowed me to be part of her life. And I remember getting an email from her daughter after Mary had passed away. And she said many, many times that the relationship that I had developed with her was one of the most powerful relationships of her life. Now, when I met Mary, she was, of course, a crank. She was a mocker. She was a cynic. But over time, we developed a relationship, and I used humor. I would often crack jokes with her, and I would, use that form. And I knew that deep inside, Mary had a comedic bent. I had seen it a couple of times in our interactions. And so I capitalized on that. And we would have wonderful laugh sessions where we would be, telling wild stories of things that had happened in our lives. And it was a humorous relationship, but it was also a relationship based on, of course, respect. And she respected me and I respected her because I saw that there was something inside. Remember that particular story of Shrek? Remember that? The ogre and how that, he said, I'm like an onion. I have layers. And basically Donkey says, layers? Well, every one of us has a potential to be healed and whole. And if you have that wonderful opportunity, take it. Because at some point, remember this, we're all going to need it. We're all going to need to feel understood. We all need someone who is willing to step and be kind to us. So my simple exhortation for you today is lift people up. Make loving choices and be a good example. It doesn't take an awful lot of effort. I love watching videos, for example, of male chivalry or, acts of kindness that people do to help others. It just lifts me up. Why? Because I see so much of the negative in our world today. And you probably have experienced it as well. So you and I can turn the page and make the right choices today. Remember, the steps of a good person are ordered by the Lord, and you and I can make such an incredible difference. Of course, the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms came at a cost. Young men and young women were willing to give their lives and put their life on the line. That's what Remembrance Day and also as well Veterans Day is all about. Now, I didn't speak about that yesterday because I chose to enjoy Remembrance Day with my family. And my wife and I, of course, went to the service and we thoroughly were impressed. But we were reminded about the freedom that we have. You and I have the freedom today to make the right choice when it comes to interacting with other individuals. What we do in life has also a way of sorting itself out. There's an old adage that simply goes unto this, and it was what Jesus says: do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Because actually, what you sow is what you will reap. So if you sow loving and kindness and graciousness, forgiveness, mercy, and love, guess what? Those things will come back to you. And it won't be just in a small measure, it will be in a great measure. And that's my exhortation for you today. So, Lord, thank you for the opportunity that we've had today to talk about Remembrance Day and also what we can do as well to help others. Let it be our aim and our goal to do that today, that we would be that individual, that kind individual that will change someone's life. We never know. One of my favorite stories is the story of a man in China. In China, there's this one particular city that has a bridge that goes over the top of the Yangtze River. The Yangtze River, of course, is one of the largest rivers in the world. And it is also in that particular city a raging torrent. And he does this every single day. He walks across that bridge looking for people who have basically felt that life is not worth living and they're going to jump off. What he has done over the last 5 years is he has saved the lives of over 500 people. He will see them on the edge of the bridge, ready to jump off, and he will be able to talk them out, reminding them that life is not as tough. And he makes a commitment that he's going to stay with them. And he has visited literally hundreds of people, and hundreds of people have testified about his love and concern. I pray that maybe we'll be that type of person today. And I thank you for that. And that's my exhortation for every one of us today. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, my name is Robert Dean Steele, and if you like what you've been seeing and hearing, I always encourage you to press the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, as well, check out our daily shorts, our YouTube shorts. Every day, I do several vignettes, snapshots, exhortations to encourage you day by day. Check those out as well. My name is Robert Dean Steele. Thank you for spending time with me today. Have yourself a great and godly day.